We're going to go story time with Father Gale here for a homily. Probably not exactly what my homilist professors would have desired, but we're going to go with this anyway. But before we get to the stories, I want to talk a little bit about what I know about gardening, which is very little, very little. I think we've got some real people who know about gardening, who know about growing things in our midst. Talk to me after Mass if I foul this up. But from what I know, what I understand to be true is that you have branches, you have vines, you have bushes, you have plants, and there's many things kind of vying for the nutrients that come from the ground and then make their way into these plants. Many branches, and some of the branches are better than the other branches, and so it's wise to remove the branches that aren't doing so well, to prune them, if you will, so that the life-giving nutrients that are making their way into the plant can make their way to the good branches, and then all of a sudden the plant becomes healthy and continues to grow. That's the analogy that we're looking at here in today's gospel. In today's gospel, Jesus says, I am the vine, the Father is the vine grower, and we understand that these nutrients that the world needs is what comes to us from Jesus. So that's fine. That's what the gospel's talking about. Now I want to talk about a party that I went to last night. Okay, so one of these St. Isidore's, Kansas State college parties. These are good kids that do things the right way. And we have 7 young men. Many of them are seniors, going to be moving on, graduating, and they all live in the same house together. They call the house the dog pound, because they would consider themselves to be, if you talk to them, dogs, like with the connotation of like being a dog these days is like awesome, right? And so this is the dog pound, and so they were having their last stand, the dog pound's last stand. They were throwing a party last night, and as a part of this was going to be something called, stick with me, the Donnie Flop. The Donnie Flop. And so this goes back to a kid from a number of years ago. And basically, if there was ever a belly flop contest to take place, this kid Donnie was going to win the belly flop contest. He was committed. He was great at it. And he's now graduated. And so he would even do this belly flop into like a little kiddie pool with maybe, if you had 6 inches of water, honestly, if you had an inch of water, Donnie would flop into it. He's basically just doing kind of a chest plant onto the concrete. He passed the Donnie Flop down to a kid named Brandon. Brandon last night in a kiddie pool. This one a little bit better than a couple inches of water. We're talking maybe 1.5 feet of water. Brandon gets up on a chair, and with everybody gathered around cheering him on, he does the kind of the Willie the Wildcat KSU thing, and then he flops into 1.5 feet of water. It was cool. Everybody applauded. Things went well. And then he, being a senior, he passed it down to a freshman by the name of Landon. So it's like this Dawn theme. So we went from Braden to Brandon and now to Landon, and it was passed down. It was cool. It was really a beautiful event. Landon, the freshman, he received it. He did the KSU Willie the Wildcat thing, did his belly flop into the 1.5 feet of water. A young lady by the name of Mary Grace, who's a Focus missionary for us, she's going to be leaving us, moving to Montana. She did a belly flop. It was great. Everything was wonderful. Everything was wonderful, friends. And then this other kid shows up. But he saw the first 3 belly flops, and he rips off his shirt, and then he looks off to the right, and he sees this shed. A shed, about a 12-foot shed that's in the backyard of the pound, the dog pound. He said, I can do it. And he went around the back of the shed, and he started climbing up the back of the shed, at which point I'm like, I'm out of here. I am not going to be here for this. And luckily, like, the maturity of the men who lived in that house, like, hey, bro, we don't know who you are, but we're not letting you climb up on our shed to kill yourself by trying to jump into 1.5 feet of water. No, that's not going to happen. And so they wouldn't let him do it. And I was so proud of our young men who stopped him from doing that. And then you fast forward to this afternoon, and one of the young men, Brandon, he texted me. He texted me and he said this. He said, so you remember that dude that ripped his shirt off? Well, I guess he came back last night. He came back, and indeed he jumped off the shed. We didn't think that he would really do. We in fact, a couple of our friends saw him do it, and we thought they were just making up the story. Somebody just sent us a post online of this kid jumping off of our shed. And sure enough, he sent me the picture. Here's this kid midair, shirtless, with the subtitle of the song being played in the back of the post on the internet, Leonard Skinner's Freebird. And so I asked the question, I said, have you checked the swimming pool? Is he still in there? Is he dead? Did he, no, he made it. He survived. Somehow he survived. That's my story. That's the story I want to tell. And I want to take that story and I want to sit it next to a story of a 22-year-old Gail Hammerschmidt, who one time in Nebraska at a hotel swimming pool with my friends, I decided it would be appropriate for me to climb up about an 8-foot fence and then dive into a swimming pool that was, 7-8 feet from the fence. When I shoved myself off that fence to make that epic, glorious dive, the fence wasn't as strong as I thought it would be, and the fence gave way. And I still made it into the water, but I scraped up my knee pretty good on the edge of the water as I was making this epic, glorious dive. This kid from last night, shirtless kid that just showed up at a party and says, with my bravado, I can outclass everybody else. 22-year-old Gail Hammerschmidt, we need to be pruned. There's some things about us, there's just some parts of our life that need to be pruned, right? This is the reality. I remember, I think I told my mom the story. She's like, son, if you keep doing this, you will die soon. You understand that you will die soon. And she was right? And this kid that jumped off the shed, if he keeps trying to do these kinds of things, he will die soon. Much like that branch or that plant or that bush, if you continue doing foolish things, if you're not pruned, if you're with me on this analogy, life will not go well. And you will legitimately, perhaps physically die from doing stupid things. Great. We get that. It makes sense. Let's turn the page. What about our spiritual life? I think Jesus is talking a little bit more about our spiritual life. Perhaps even about the community in general, right? There's certain times in which certain thoughts or ideas from a culture, a society, or a community need to be pruned, or it will make the culture unruly and the culture will die. Our own spiritual lives, if we continue living particular lives that contain things that need to be pruned, and we do not prune those things, the certain sins, perhaps, the bad habits of our lives, the things that lead us further away from the Lord, if we don't prune those things, then we spiritually die. That's the message of today's gospel. It's interesting, though, because here's the thing. When 22-year-old Gail turned into 23-year-old Gail, turned into 35-year-old Gail before I finally grew up, it always hurt when I knew that I could jump up on that fence and make it into the pool. But I didn't do it. That hurt a little bit. Oh, but I could do that. See my friends or younger people doing these crazy things. Oh, I could do that. But I won't receive all of the applause for doing something stupid, which is, again, what are we doing? Applauding people that are jumping off of sheds into 1.5 feet of water? I don't know. It hurts a little bit, right? To be pruned, to get rid of the sins of our lives, that hurts. But the only thing that hurts more is not being pruned. Allowing our lives, our spiritual lives, to become, if you will, unruly, and choking the life out of every part of us, so as to become even, if you will, spiritually dead. Oh, that hurts far worse than the pruning that must take place within our lives to become the people that the Lord calls us to be. So, my friends, I just invite you to consider these things, to ask yourself the question, what is it that's a part of my life that needs to probably not be a part of my life so as to truly thrive, to receive all of the nutrients that the Lord desires to give me, that the Father desires to give me? And how can I be willing to say yes to that pruning so as to receive life, true life, the abundant life that He desires to give?